Your Manchester United versus Coventry FA Cup semi-final preview. We've also got the latest Manchester United news with Bastian Schweinsteiger basically saying that Marcus Rashford should leave United. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, Ivan Toney's wage demands make it, maybe a reason why people aren't looking at him. We'll also be talking about Jadon Sancho giving Manchester United a financial fair play boost as well. But we're here to talk about Coventry. We're here to talk about Manchester United. We're here to talk about the FA Cup final, semi-final. We want to talk about the final, but we're not there yet. And look, without being too sensationalist, I don't want it to be about this. Nobody wants it to be about this. But if the outcome on Sunday night is that we're knocked out by Coventry, I really don't see how there is any justification for Erik ten Hag to be saying to Ineos, keep me on. It's sort of, you lose to Liverpool in an FA Cup semi-final, you can say, look, they've got no injuries and they're better than us and they've built a project. You lose to Coventry in a semi-final in the FA Cup, you're massive favourites. It's very hard to see how he comes back from that. So there is pressure, there is expectation, and United need to deal with that, and it might not be easy against Coventry. Lots to get into. I'll obviously be revealing my team, which is a little bit controversial, but I stand by it. But before we do that, you'll see we're sponsored by Manscaped. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. What is Manscaped? Well, it's basically the best in male grooming. That's what it's all about. We've got the beard trimmer, which has got 11 different lengths on when you want to do that. You can have a clean shave with the handyman, which I use just to tidy up around the sides. You got the weed whacker for up the nose or in the ears if you're that old. You've also got the creme de la creme, the lawn mower, which is for down there. Trim the grass, make the yard look bigger. Definitely makes a big difference. And also fantastic products. You can feel the quality in the hand. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TUS. Links in the description. Scan the QR code. Use the code TUS. 20% off. Free worldwide shipping. They're fantastic products. They'll be a game changer for you in your male grooming routine. Big shout out to Manscaped. Don't forget to get your orders in. Big shout out to them. Ben Jacobs and Evan Ferguson is not breaking news, Keshaf. He's mentioned it before. Dewsbury Hall yesterday wasn't breaking news. Ben Jacobs mentioned it on this channel a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of regurgitation about stories and players. I'd love Man United to sign Evan Ferguson, but I think there's a little bit of time before anything like that actually plays off. Right, let's get into our preview. And this is my lineup for the Coventry game. Now, let me give you a little bit of backdrop into Coventry City. With regards to where they are in the Championship, they're currently 8th. They're probably not going to get in the playoffs because Norwich are in 6th and Norwich are 8 points ahead of them. So it's very unlikely that they would get into the playoffs this year. They were in the playoff final last year. They're a consistent team in the top sort of 7-8 of the Championship. They could have been in the Premier League if Luton hadn't beaten them. They've scored. They're 6th in the league in relation to goals scored, so they know where the back of the net is. Energetic team, progressive team, expressive team. They can express themselves. They can play football. These are, look, effectively, I'm not saying they're as good as Brentford or they're as good as Bournemouth, but they're not stereotypical Championship team who's just happy to be there, park the bus with nothing up front. They do have the capability to score goals. They came from behind against Wolves at the Molineux, and they will beat us if we play like we did against Bournemouth and Brentford. We will get beat. They are capable of beating us. I firmly believe there is a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League, and we need to show what that gap is. The press are going to be full of it this weekend. Coventry's combined wage in their first 11 is £200,000 a week. They're not quite working as a butcher in their spare time. They do get good money in the Championship, but combined, probably 200 grand a week in wages. We will be around 2 million. So all those stories will be told. We've got to go and win this game on Sunday. We have to go and win it. But Coventry, it's so easy to play against Manchester United. You basically, if I was Mark Robins or any coach, Sheffield United next week when they're at Old Trafford, Burnley the game after, all I would say to my players is, and I remember Morgan Gibbs-White saying to this around Christmas time when they were at the City Ground and they beat us, and he had that huddle, and basically he was just saying, if we outrun them, we'll beat them because they don't want it. And it's really sad because I've grown up with many Man United sides, good teams, not so good teams, but they will fight for the shirt. Basically, if you're Coventry, all you need to know is express yourself when you get the ball, but when you haven't got the ball, work hard, outrun United. It's not hard to do, and you'll have the keys to the kingdom because we will let you play. And that's the big concern going into this game. Coventry are capable of doing that. There's a lot of teams in the Championship that are capable of doing that. And if United think they're going to turn up and just win on wages, it won't happen. You've got to fight for the right to be in this FA Cup final. And although I sat in this very chair when the draw came out and I went, get in, get in, I stand by that. Coventry's an easier draw than Chelsea and Man City. There's no way that you could argue it's not. But as it gets closer and I think about the way we've been playing, I've got to be honest, I do look at it and sort of go, it's not going to be straightforward. Look, as the title says, no more excuses. No more excuses for Ten Hag. No more excuses for these players. If they go out to Coventry on Sunday, it's the lowest of the low. I mean, the fact that we could have an FA Cup final this year in what's been a dreadful season could be some excitement, some solace on what has been a horrific season. I'm not saying we'd win the FA Cup final. I'd say we're underdogs, whoever it is, and it probably will be Man City. But at least it would be nice if we win on Sunday to know that at the end of the season, amazingly, we're in a cup final with the opportunity to play for some silverware, which I think would salvage something from what has been an absolute train wreck of a season. So, but to get there, we've got to beat Coventry. Now, look, when I look at this team, when I look at Manchester United, we shouldn't even be thinking about how we beat Coventry. We should be thinking about how much we beat them by. That's what you would normally think. That's disrespectful because Coventry are more than capable of giving us a game. But what we need to do is put the best team out we can and take as many risks off the pitch. Now, I hummed and hawed about Casemiro starting in this game because I thought, well, he's been so bad the last 3 games. I would think about taking him out of the game and putting Amrabat in or even Scott McTominay in. I would seriously think about it. Now, I never thought I'd utter the words, drop Casemiro for Amrabat or drop Casemiro for McTominay. But the way he's been playing recently, I think it's just a risk. It's a risk to start him. But I've decided to put him in. And the other risk is Rashford, who I've decided not to put in. I don't think you can put both in. I think that would be really, really risky. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if he does pick Casemiro, if he does pick Rashford, if he does pick the normal favourites, and we win because we are better man for man than Coventry, and suddenly these players turn up because it's Wembley. We know the most infuriating thing about this United side is occasionally they do turn up. They do. And then they don't turn up when you want them to. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did turn up on Sunday because it's a big game. It's at Wembley. You know, it might get them inspired. But obviously it's too late for a lot of these players. They do need kicking out. But I wouldn't be surprised if they turned up on Sunday. I'm confident we're going to win. So my team is Onana, Delo and Wan-Bissaka as the fullbacks. We've got no other options. I think Johnny Evans is back. So if Johnny Evans is back, he's got to come in. You know, whatever you want to say about Johnny Evans, Varane's not fit, Lindelof's not fit. Kambwala I like, but he did make mistakes against Bournemouth. Do you want to play in an FA Cup semi-final where a mistake could be costly? I don't mind if Kambwala plays, but I've put Johnny Evans in because one thing about Johnny Evans, he may be 35, he may be, you know, a little bit slow, but what he has been this season is he gets it. He understands what United's all about. And I think Maguire played well in the second half last week. And if you put Maguire and Evans at the back, what they don't have in pace, they make up in experience. And I think if you know, I just would go for that in a game like this. It means we're going to have to play a little bit deeper, but I'd play Evans and Maguire. We want to try and keep a clean sheet. I've said why I'd pick Casemiro, although it was something that I was a little bit uncertain about, if I'm being completely honest. Mainu has to start. I mean, he just has to start. There's no two ways about it. Bruno will start. There's no point messing around with that. As I said, I don't know what Mason Mount's at this football club for. He's fully fit. He costs £55 million. I don't even know where to put him in the team. I just don't know. And Sia says, you've just ruined my birthday. I've ruined Sia's Thursday. I waited all week for the Kev Ashford show. Well, it was meant to be the Kev Ashford show, but Kev Ashford is stuck in traffic and won't be back till 9. So we've had to move things around. This was meant to happen at 2 o'clock, hence no 2 o'clock show. So Kev's not been dropped. It's unforeseen circumstances. My new pickup line to girls is call me Arsenal because I start on top and finish second, says Bartik. Yeah, I've heard a few of those Arsenal ones lately. Anyway, so Bruno will start. Answers on a postcard what Mason Mount's role is at Man United. He's fully fit. I think he's done reasonably well. Where do you start him in this team? I said it last summer. He's a good player. I just don't understand why we bought him. Maybe at some time we will understand it, but at the moment I don't understand it. I mean, he could go Casemiro holding midfielder, Mount and Bruno. Be very, very brave to do that. But do you think there is an opportunity to put Mainu as the holding midfielder? He's done it before. Mainu's done it before. He's done it away at Newcastle. He's done it away at Everton. He's done it at Anfield. You could easily play Mainu as the holding midfielder against a team like Coventry. I don't like him as a holding midfielder. I think he's more progressive than that. But you could do that. You could put him as the holding midfielder and play Mount and Bruno. Maybe that's something to consider. I'd probably prefer it than that midfield three I've got there. And then front three, I nearly, for the banter, took Garnacho out and put Rashford on the left, Anthony on the right, and then Højlund through the middle. But that would be because he's been dropped for liking a tweet, which to me is just incredible. He's been one of our best players this season. It's the biggest game of our season. If you don't start Garnacho because he liked a tweet, then the club's really lost. Garnacho has to start. Højlund has to start. I mean, Højlund's had a bit of stick lately, but he's not getting any service. Surprise, surprise. Haaland had a bad game last night, gets a load of stick, no service. People need to understand football. As a striker, you will have a bad game if you get no service, but is it your fault? It's not. Højlund has had 1 shot on goal in 4 Premier League games. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful, and that's not on him. So Højlund would start for me. I'd put Garnacho on the left because we're better when we've got Garnacho on the left. He's our best left-sided player. And then I'd put Anthony on the right. And that would mean Marcus Rashford's on the bench, ready to come on. And that's what I would do. Yeah, that's what I would do. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I think that's the right team to go with. Now, I don't for 1 minute think that will be the team. I think Anthony will be on the bench. I think Rashford will be on the left. I think Garnacho will be on the right. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I hope I'm right on this, I wouldn't be surprised if Rashford had a good game and scored a few goals. But that's how I would line up. Let me know in the comments if you're not watching live what you think. Evans isn't expected to be back until Sheffield United, says Riley. Well, I heard something different. I heard Johnny Evans might be back for the weekend. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? I know Varane is meant to be back end of the month, but there was talk of Evans being available. If Evans isn't available, it's Camboire. It's as simple as that. Arrow says rest Casemiro and Bruno. What are we resting them for then? That's like it's the Olympics 100 metres this summer and next every 4 years. And Great Britain says, let's rest our quickest runner for the Grand Prix at Crystal Palace. This is the biggest game of the season. Should have said it at the start. Biggest game of our season. That's what it is. And you've got to put your best team out. I think that's probably the team I would go with. I'd be persuaded to put Mount in the midfield and drop Casemiro, Bruno, Mainu back a little bit. I think he'll play Rashford. Yeah, I think he'll play Rashford. Polo says, why are you picking Bruno over Mount? Because there's hypothetical and then there's never going to happen. Like, he's never going to drop Bruno. There's no point even putting my team out there because Bruno will 100% start. He has dropped Rashford in the past. It could happen on Sunday. But Rashford should be dropped. Casemiro probably deserves to be dropped. They've not played well in a long time. What scares me about this game is how badly we played against Newport. Yep, spot on, Levi. Interestingly enough, just on the Rashford thing, not my words, the words of Bastian Schweinsteiger. He has actually said in this interview with Gary Neville that he'd like to, basically sort of hinting that he'd like to see Marcus Rashford leave Manchester United and go to a team that gets the ball to him quicker because he doesn't score the goals that he can score. Interesting. I mean, obviously Schweinsteiger's an admirer of Rashford and he's basically saying that we're not getting the ball to him quick enough. I sort of agree. I do sort of agree because, yeah, Rashford's very good on the break, but what you're basically saying, Bastian, is what many of us have said. We have got good players at this football club who just don't suit the style of play that the best teams in England play. I.e., Harry Maguire is a good centre-back on the edge of his own box, deep, counter-attacking football. Marcus Rashford is very good when he gets the ball quickly over the top to sprint onto, counter-attacking football. So I agree with Bastian Schweinsteiger. I think he's right. I think that Marcus Rashford in an Everton team or a West Ham team or any other counter-attacking team in the Premier League would be very useful. But we can't and shouldn't be doing that to just accommodate players. There's no doubt if you can get the ball to Rashford quickly, you know, just inside his own half, ball to feet, running at a left back and a centre back with space, he's more threatening and dangerous than what we see is where Rashford picks it up against a low block of 8 and sort of runs into trouble. So Bastian Schweinsteiger is absolutely correct. But that's only a decision United can make and Rashford can make. He does suit a team that counter-attacks quickly and he can run into space. Yes, we've been saying for years, we need to see more to Rashford's game. We need to see him develop creativity, passing, because he is a little bit one-dimensional in the fact that he's really good running into space and getting a shot off. But at the highest level, teams don't give you space. They play a low block. Look at what Real Madrid did to Man City last night. So I think he's right in a certain sense, but I don't think United are going to be in a situation where we're going to play against teams that let us counter on them. Coventry has lost their last 2, says DW. They have. I wouldn't read anything into that. This happens a lot. Coventry have lost their last 2. They got beat by Birmingham City 3-0 last weekend. But this happens a lot to teams that have got a priority like this. That FA Cup semi-final for Coventry will be massive. They've easily sold out their allocation. There's a lot of excitement around it, and there'll be a lot of excitement around those players. And to be honest with you, I think getting in the playoffs hasn't been possible for them for a couple of weeks. So I think they've got their eye on this game. I wouldn't read Coventry's form going into this game because this is a different game. It's like Arsenal in the league and Arsenal in the Champions League. They're different tournaments with different mentalities. And I think Coventry at Wembley against Man United as underdogs are going to come for us. Yeah. If we lose to Coventry, I'm selling this garbage team. Tired of people blaming me for us failing. Ownership is not a problem, says Joel Glazer. What scares me about this game is I've done that one from Levi as well. My score prediction, 2-0 Manchester United. Very, very quickly before I move on. Now, talking about wingers, one winger that won't be playing in this game, but is still a Manchester United, is player Jadon Sancho. So Jadon Sancho, it's a little. There's a couple of headlines I've read today which are, we don't do this. People say United stand clickbait. We basically just talk about what's in the news. But I saw a headline today. Sancho delivers Manchester United massive financial fair play windfall. And I'm sorry, a massive financial fair play windfall to me, you're talking 100 million. So I was like, clicked on the article straight away. And immediately got pissed off when I realised it was about 4 million. So basically what's happened is, Jadon Sancho's gone on loan to Dortmund and we got about 3 million quid. But there was an add-on structure in there that if Dortmund got to the semi-final of the Champions League, we get another 4. So basically, Jadon Sancho's loan will lead us to about 6 million quid instead of about 3 because they've got to the semi-final of the Champions League. It's nice. £6 million is nice, but it's not a financial fair play windfall. And it pissed me right off. It's an extra couple of million, 3 million maybe, but that's not going to touch the sides. It's not going to buy us Todibo, is it? So it's nice, a little bit extra, but it's not it's not an FFP windfall. So beware the article if you see it at some point. Don't click it. It's a little bit of... was it the Manchester Evening News, says Jude? It might have been. I don't know. I can't remember. All I remember is I clicked it and it pissed me off. So yeah, we get a little bit extra from the loan, but it's not gonna make us be able to buy João Neves for 100 million. Let's put it that way. Tokyo Racing says, "Do you know what happened to Dubai?" I think there was a storm. Mark Smith, welcome to the Members Club. Absolute legend. Get your badge in. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Really love that. Also, talking about money, there is a story going round that Ivan Toney, because it's his last contract, he's like 27, 28, isn't he? And because he's got 1 year left on his deal with Brentford, not only does he want to go and play for a top team, he also wants to get a massive pay rise for his final contract. There's talk of 2 to 250 grand a week. Again, I saw another article where, I mean, it must just be the day for it, where it was something like Ivan Toney infuriates Bruno Fernandes. I mean, yeah, it's just clickbait bollocks. But basically what it was is that Bruno Fernandes is on about 225 grand a week. And if Man United sign Ivan Toney, he'd be on 250 grand a week. Therefore, he'd be on more money than Bruno Fernandes. So Bruno Fernandes would be angry. Yeah, this is the state of our media these days as they search for clicks, I suppose. And maybe I should start using these headlines. No, they're absolutely shit. And how Bruno Fernandes can be angry about something that won't happen is incredible. But what I agree with Ollie, it could be a little bit of a red flag, because if Ivan Toney wants 250 grand a week, I'd never considered his wage. I think he's a bit of a red flag for numerous reasons. I don't think we need a starting striker. I worry about the way Brentford play compared to the way we want to play. It's counter-attacking, it's low possession, it's flick-ons, etc. He's a good striker. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Chelsea and scored a lot of goals. But I just worry about the Ivan Toney deal. It doesn't feel right to me. It certainly doesn't feel right for 250 grand a week. We need to be moving away from that sort of stuff. And not because he's not worth 200 grand a week, but because we don't need to be... That's sort of United's mistake from the past, isn't it? And I don't know whether Ivan Toney is demanding those wages. But there's a few stories I can tell you. Harry Maguire was on about 50 grand a week at Leicester. We gave him 170. Sancho was on about 90 grand a week at Dortmund. We gave him 300. Anthony was on about 20 grand a week at Ajax. We gave him 200. We have a sickening recent history of giving people 5 to 10 times their wages to sign for Manchester United. I don't understand it. I'm sure you don't understand it. It's absolutely indescribable, really, because if I'm on 50 grand a week at Leicester and Man United want me, I'd sign for 100 grand a week. It's double my wages and I get to play for Man United. I don't understand why over the last 5 to 10 years, when we're giving wages out, we're giving 5 to 10 times what they were on. It doesn't make Anthony from 220 grand a week to 200 grand a week makes no sense. What you've got to say is that it's just shit negotiating from United, and fair play to the player's agent. But we've got to stop doing that. We need players that want to come to Manchester United. That's what we need to do. And I think if you've got an Ivan Toney or a Sesko or anybody else that says, I will sign for you, but I want 200 grand a week, then I'd say, we'll give you 120 grand a week, and then we'll review it after a year. That's the offer. If you want to come and play here, you'll sign that deal. That's what you need to start doing. That is what you need to start doing. What happened to Zayn Miassi, says Braden. I missed the twat. I don't know, mate. I genuinely don't know. Sesko is the type of striker we should target, says Camo. Offers something different to what we have and offers physical presence in the box, so we can offload McTominay for the only thing that he offers, which is height. I quite like Sesko. It's interesting, actually. A few people have been messaging me about stuff today, and they said, it's funny, you did that morning show, and a lot of people are saying now that Varane and Maguire are the two defenders most likely to be sold. We literally said that this morning. A few weeks ago, when we introduced the Hotimeter, a lot of people were saying Frimpong is very unlikely. And now a lot of people are saying Frimpong is more likely. We always said Frimpong's very high on the Hotimeter. Todibo remains high on the Hotimeter. So I think that a lot of what we're starting to deduce and work out is based on what I said this morning. if Ten Hag stays. I mean, it's all out the window if Ten Hag goes. I think a lot of the targets would have to change. But I think we're starting to establish what will happen in the summer if Erik Ten Hag goes. The striker situation, though, the reason I went off on that tangent, Camo, was because you mentioned Sesko. I like the idea of Sesko. I don't know what we're doing in the striker situation. If I say we're getting Sesko, Chelsea say they're getting Sesko. If you say we're getting Tony, Chelsea say they're getting Tony. There's a lot of other clubs looking at a lot of similar players. I mean, there was something that went out tonight. I only saw it on Twitter. It could be complete and utter bollocks. In fact, it probably is. But it was something about Elise saying that if Elise leaves Crystal Palace, it will be for a Champions League club. Well, we're not going to be in the Champions League. I mean, we were never going to be in the Champions League. But if you've been keeping an eye on the European games tonight, every English club is going to go out this week, unless Liverpool or West Ham pull off a real surprise. Because Villa, I don't know what's going on with the Premier League, actually. Villa are losing 2-0 with 5 minutes to go and they're out. Does Malacia exist, says Velfi? Yes. I don't know what's going on, but we're not getting Champions League football. We're not going to get fifth anyway. Fifth won't get Champions League football. So we are where we are. But I don't think Elise is going to sit there and go, I'm only going to a Champions League club. Because if he's going to a Champions League club, it's got to be Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City or Aston Villa. And I don't think Elise will choose any of those over Man United, because we've had good conversations with Elise and he really likes Manchester United. So I don't believe that. Apparently Villa have scored, so it's 2-1. It's going to go into extra time. So there we go. I'd be stunned if Aston Villa went out. Really would be stunned if they went out. But we won't be getting in the Champions League anyway, because we don't deserve to be in fifth place, and I don't think we will be there. But on Elise, I actually think that we've got a very good chance of signing him. If we don't sign Elise, I think it will be on Man United's decision, not the players. He's very interested in signing for Manchester United. We should have bought someone like Tony when we bought Højlund, says Lucky. Well, I sort of agree with you, even though I disagree with you. I think if we wanted an Ivan Toney, last summer was the time to go and buy that type of striker. We chose to spend significant amounts of money on Højlund. I was happy with that. We are a progressive team. We are a work in progress. I like what's happening with Mainu, Garnacho and Rasmus. I think that the striker that we bring in really needs to be something very different, like Sesko, or something developmental, like Evan Ferguson, or somebody that's pretty much made to be the bench striker, like Jonathan David. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't be looking to spend 70, 80, 90 million. I mean, look, there's two strikers in the Premier League that I think are very interesting. And in a different world, they might have been opportunities. Isak at Newcastle, Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa would be fantastic signings. But the bidding will start at £100 million, so forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. Yeah, so yeah, I think that it'll be. I don't know what's happening with the striker. I can tell you what's happening. I don't know what's happening with the left back either. I've got no idea what we're doing at left back. Got no idea what we're doing up front. But Elise talks have taken place. Todibo is a Nice player. Branthwaite's of high interest. Frimpong is of high interest. Frimpong could be really difficult though. Like, he is playing tonight. There's been a rumour. I think Ben Jacobs said there might be something said by Frimpong. There's talk that Man City might go for him. If Man City go for him, they'll get him. We won't get him. But we do want Frimpong. There's no question about that. It's just whether we can get that deal done. And I think he'd be a very good signing. I really, really do. How about not Premier League mark like Gio Queiroz? I can't pronounce his name. The Sporting Lisbon, formerly of Coventry striker, or João Neves from Benfica, the centre midfielder. But you're talking, mate, bouncing balls. Ooh, that's not me doing something under the table. I can't switch it off. There we go. It was that. That's the weed whacker. I've got, with all due respect and in the nicest possible way, I've got nothing to say about João Neves because we won't sign him. You're talking £100 million. We're not. Ineos aren't walking in and saying days of spending stupid money are gone. And then first signing, João Neves, 100 million. He'll go to Man City. I mean, the scary thing is that the Premier League is shit, really. It's the best brand. It's got the best advertising. It's the best product. But as an actual league, it's pretty redundantly boring, I think. Man City are going to win 6 out of 7. The same 3 teams that came up could all go down. The same 3 that come up next year could all come down. Man City will win it again next year. We can't get to the semi-finals of the Champions League anymore. Man City and the Premier League are systematically destroying this league because we've got one team with way better players than everybody else, way better budget than everybody else, and in the summer they could go and get Frimpong and João Neves. 2 players that for us would make us close the gap on Man City, but 2 players that will go to Man City and extend the gap on everybody else. So this is becoming... People don't want to have this conversation, but if you look at the French league, PSG just hoover everything up and it scraps for everybody else. And nobody else in the French league ever does really that well in Europe anymore. I mean, I know Lille are beating Aston Villa, but it's the Conference League. PSG have dominated that league for years, and it's been to the detriment of everybody else because PSG just hoover up the best players from everywhere. And I think we are heading towards that. And people don't want to have that conversation because the Premier League are very good at promoting brand Premier League, the best league in the world with the biggest viewing figures. But I think fans are gradually starting to wake up. I've been saying for years, Premier League's the best league in the world. Sit down, La Liga. In the last few weeks, I've sort of had an epiphany and woken up and gone 6 out of 7, and I'd put them as favourite for the next 3 without kicking a ball. Man City could do 9 out of 10. No problem. No problem at all. I don't see them dropping off. They're just going to keep adding another £100 million player, another £100 million player. Every summer, they're going to add 2 or 3 top-class players, and they're going to get stronger and stronger. So the Premier League becomes weaker and weaker. But people don't want to have this conversation because they get lost on the 115. But even if the 115 disappears, the league is still broken. Spanish league is the best, says Jeremy. I don't know what the best footballing league is, but the Premier League is certainly a busted flush when it says it's the best league in the world. I genuinely just don't think it is. I don't think you can have the best league in the world unless you like watching teams fight for second and third. I just don't agree with it, really. Anyway, I'm going to be live on That's Football to watch what I believe could be, well, it's either going to be Jurgen Klopp's last game in charge of Liverpool in Europe, or it's going to be an amazing comeback for Liverpool. We're also going to be keeping an eye on Leverkusen against West Ham. Could there be a comeback there? But thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you over there in a couple of minutes' time. And yeah, we've got the press conference tomorrow. We're building towards the biggest game of Man United season, and there are no more excuses. Don't forget to check out Manscaped. Links in the description. 20% off and free worldwide shipping. I'll see you over on That's Football if you want to join me. If not, get your comments in below if you're not watching live. Take care.